Now we see someone casually whistling while listening to music, as the MC walks along and reflects that he never expected a loner like himself to be invited into an extroverted group, even thinking that things would probably be more enjoyable for them without him. But his thoughts are suddenly interrupted when he notices a girl riding a bicycle while listening to music, completely unaware of her surroundings. And before he can react, she crashes straight into him and falls on top of him, leaving him lying underneath her in an unconscious state. The scene then shifts to the girl and her father apologizing repeatedly to the MC, while his sister stands right beside him. And although the MC tries to calmly explain that he did not suffer any serious injuries and would prefer to settle the matter peacefully, his sister abruptly interrupts and declares that this should be taken to court, which leaves the MC confused, yet she continues firmly, arguing that riding a bicycle with headphones on is so dangerous that it could even be considered attempted murder, a claim the MC immediately dismisses as an exaggeration. And as she continues escalating the situation, he steps in to calm her down. Later, the MC is seen explaining to everyone that this incident is how he ended up receiving settlement money, and he uses that money to treat everyone by handing out free pizza and sushi, apologizing for previously turning down their invitation and encouraging them to eat as much as they want. But the moment is interrupted when a teacher suddenly bursts in, angrily demanding to know who ordered food to be delivered to the school, and the MC casually raises his hand, leading to him being scolded, although she also expresses relief that he was not seriously hurt, which makes him quietly think about how kind she actually is. Soon after, Staircase Senpai approaches him and remarks in an indirect tone that he had been quite impressive, which confuses the MC, prompting her to explain that during the recent club activities, he had completely overwhelmed the other members. And in response, he questions why someone like Artemis Senpai, whom he refers to as a loner, would be in the gym, which irritates her as she sharply responds that she has told him many times that she is not a loner, before smugly adding that despite appearances, she is actually a member of the badminton club. The MC then comments in a critical tone that being part of what he calls a bandwagon club does not seem appealing, questioning what is enjoyable about simply siding with those who are already winning, which causes her to angrily correct him that it is the badminton club and complain that his perception of her is unnecessarily bleak. Attempting to shift the conversation, he casually remarks that intense battles over yakisoba bread only happen in fiction and admits that he is not particularly fond of it, which only frustrates her further as she questions why he bought it in the first place and accuses him of ignoring her, while he simply laughs, provoking her to tear up in frustration as she demands to know why he is acting so carelessly. Finally, unable to contain herself, she grabs the MC by the collar and shakes him, insisting that he should believe her, explaining that because of him, people have started to treat her as some kind of lucky charm or rare character who brings good fortune. Hearing her mention good luck, the MC quietly takes out a coin from his purse, kneels down, and offers it to her, which leaves her completely confused, and he explains in a straightforward manner that he is making an offering in hopes of receiving some good luck, causing her to get irritated again as she tells him that she does not need anything like that. But after calming herself, she admits that she has been talking more in class recently and that people have started saying her image has changed, even mentioning that her juniors now find her easier to approach. And with a small smile, she indirectly expresses that she does not entirely dislike this change and actually finds herself liking it a little. The MC responds by questioning whether the reason she spends so much time here is because she does not truly enjoy it, which makes her flustered as she quickly denies it, insisting in an embarrassed manner that it is not like she completely hates it, before falling silent for a moment, and then continuing more seriously by saying that even so, things must be difficult for him, since there are people around her who do not even know him properly yet still speak badly about him, which disappoints her. Hearing this makes the MC recall the recent incident, and he reflects that after causing such a scene, this kind of reaction is only natural, thinking from a senior's perspective that even if an underclassman is troublesome, most people would not bother getting involved, and he tells her that those people are simply reacting in a normal way. He then suddenly pauses and remarks that if that is the case, then the truly strange one must be her, referring to her as the stray goddess senpai, which confuses and slightly annoys her as she insists that she is still on his side and questions what he means by calling her that. And as she pouts, he elaborates in a teasing tone that she is like a rare character, a loner who goes around granting divine blessings, even asking her to give him some experience points, which only makes her glare at him as she remarks that she understands now and will instead give him a critical hit. However, her expression softens as she continues, explaining that despite all the negative things people say about him, he never speaks badly about others, and she looks at him warmly, indirectly expressing that she finds that quality of his truly admirable, but then her mood shifts slightly as she admits that at the same time, she sometimes feels like he is just toying with her. In response, the MC tells her that he genuinely respects her, explaining that he sees himself as someone stuck at the very bottom, only able to look up at others with envy. And upon hearing this, she remarks that if he did not have such a self-deprecating side, he would actually come across as an unusual yet genuinely good person. Suddenly, she recalls something and asks him whether his parents will be coming to school soon, and hearing this causes the MC to freeze up completely as he begins to stutter, nervously asking why and insisting that he has not done anything yet, which only confuses her as she asks what he means by yet, before clarifying that she is not referring to anything like that, and instead is talking about the upcoming class observation. The scene then shifts to the classroom, where the teacher announces that a class observation will be held next month and asks everyone to fill out the attendance sheet, then points directly at the MC and indirectly warns him not to skip it on his own, calling him a problem child, before telling the class that she has both good news and bad news to share. She explains that there will be an inspection by higher authorities soon, and that their class has been chosen for the first-year evaluation, wondering aloud why that might be and even asking the MC if he has any idea. And as the entire class turns to look at him, he casually responds that it might be because the teacher is both attractive and intelligent, which she surprisingly accepts with a nod. Taking advantage of the moment, the MC picks up his bag and tries to end things there, but the teacher immediately stops him, annoyed that he is trying to wrap up the conversation. And when he asks about the good news, she explains that their class has been selected for the inspection, only for him to then ask about the bad news, to which she replies that the bad news is also that their class has been selected for the inspection, prompting the MC to jokingly hit himself with a paper fan and acknowledge her point while the rest of the class laughs. Once again, he attempts to conclude the discussion, but she loudly stops him, insisting that it is not over yet, and goes on to explain that after the recent exams, their class has suddenly become the top-performing class among the first years, which has made her extremely busy. And although there have been several troublesome incidents, she believes this is a good opportunity for them to redeem themselves. When Kana tries to point out that there is not much they can do, the teacher counters by saying that they have an important role and asks everyone to keep an eye on the MC to make sure he does not cause any problems, which the class readily agrees to, while the MC responds seriously, indirectly acknowledging the situation, and this makes Kuki question why he seems to be the one agreeing with it the most. Later, Kuki brings up the topic again, admitting that he does not really understand the idea of a class observation in high school, and asking the MC what he thinks about it. And the MC replies by mentioning that his mother is usually busy and wonders whether it is even normal for her to attend, reflecting that she has only come to such events twice before, with one instance where Satsuka attended in her place, and now that he is in high school, it hardly feels necessary anymore. Kana agrees with him, saying that it made sense up until middle school but feels unnecessary at their current level. And when the MC casually calls her Elizabeth, she corrects him by stating her actual name, Sakurai, which makes him internally note how naturally she has blended into the conversation and recognize that she has the social skills of someone quite popular. Kana then adds that it would be embarrassing if none of their classmates' parents showed up and only hers did, which Kuki agrees with, while Miki checks her phone and tells Kana, indirectly addressing her by a nickname, that in elite schools the participation rate for such events is actually quite high. Hearing Miki casually call her Ari makes Kana visibly irritated as she immediately questions whether she just heard a nickname she cannot ignore, which in turn startles Miki. And while the two of them begin playfully arguing in the background, the MC is suddenly called by someone, and it turns out to be Hinagi, who tells him that her mother will most likely be attending the school event, which catches him off guard, and she further explains that her mother wants to thank him, causing the MC to grow uneasy as he jokingly yet nervously refers to it as a revenge visit, prompting Hinagi to question why he would think that way. The MC reflects internally that even if his actions were ultimately for the best, he still ended up slandering and hurting Hinagi, and from her parents' perspective, he might be someone they resent deeply. Yet Hinagi reassures him that her mother is already aware that he was the one who helped her. Though the MC, still uncomfortable, remarks that knowing more about it only makes it feel worse for him, while she gently insists that everything will be fine. Blushing slightly, she then shows him 2 tickets and indirectly invites him to join her, explaining that her mother gave them to her as an apology, which excites the MC as he immediately asks if it is a shark movie, only for her to clarify that it is not, dampening his enthusiasm just a little. The scene then shifts to the student council room, where the MC explains that he came seeking advice from experienced third-year students about what class observations are like in high school, only to realize that this might have been a mistake, as Matsuki appears extremely pleased that he came to rely on her and moves unusually close to him, making him internally wonder where the usually calming Makumo-senpai is. While Matsuki informs him that Hiomi is currently in the staff room and will likely return soon, encouraging him to relax since he made the effort to come. When the MC points out that her tone suddenly became flat, she pretends not to understand what he means and continues by explaining that during their first year, such events were mostly about the class itself, though it might differ in schools that are more academically enthusiastic, which he acknowledges, and she adds that in her opinion, the attendance rate of parents tends to be higher for girls, suggesting that boys are often too embarrassed. The MC reflects that, as expected of the student council president, Matsuki is quite reliable and that her reputation in his eyes has improved. And when he considers his own situation, he concludes that even if the attendance rate is not perfect, it would not be a major issue if his mother does not come. However, he is suddenly jolted back to reality as he realizes his current position and asks why she is sitting on his lap, to which she calmly responds that after reflecting on things, she felt she had been trying to skip too many steps, and that it might be better to take things slowly and build a stronger relationship first, which completely confuses him. She then grabs his shoulder and, in a more playful tone, suggests that they start by closing the distance between them through something simple, proposing that they address each other by given names or nicknames, and with a wink, she recommends that he call her Matsuki-chan. The MC tells her that she is getting far too close, awkwardly calling her Matsuki-chan, and as he watches her behavior, he cannot help but think that she is completely hopeless, causing her reputation in his mind to drop instantly, and he then asks her to increase the distance between them, specifically requesting that she move away, to which she teasingly asks whether he is not happy, and although he blushes, he admits that he actually is, which only pleases her further as she deliberately shifts on his lap and playfully asks if he is really that conscious of her, even casually mentioning that she feels she has been filling out more lately, before leaning in close and whispering a rather unnecessary secret into his ear, leaving the MC thinking that it is too trivial to even process. Suddenly, her expression turns serious as she tells him that he can share a secret as well, explaining that the version of him she knows would never act without reason, and indirectly brings up the incident where he took the blame for slandering Hinagi and ended up becoming the sole villain, asking him how things truly unfolded and whether he would tell her the truth. But the MC, with a lifeless expression, brushes it off by saying that he simply did it because he is a terrible person, believing that there is no meaningful truth worth sharing anymore. Refusing to accept that answer, she insists that it is not true and tries to press him further. But at that moment, Makumo enters the room, and upon seeing Matsuki sitting so close to the MC, She is visibly shocked and questions what exactly is going on. Yet before anything can be explained, the MC suddenly hugs her while acting dramatically, complaining about the situation, prompting Matsuki to calmly tell him to avoid using strange nicknames. The scene then transitions to the MC waiting at the station for his movie outing, where he suddenly hears someone apologizing for keeping him waiting. And when he turns around, he sees Hinagi dressed up, smiling as she says she is glad she found him easily. But in his usual awkward manner, he initially pretends not to recognize her, claiming that he does not know any cute girls like her in real life, only to immediately turn back in shock as he realizes it is actually Hinagi. His exaggerated reaction causes her to blush and scold him for acting so dramatically, while he admits that her appearance surprised him because she looks incredibly beautiful, almost as if she stepped out of another world, which she modestly brushes off as too much praise, though he continues enthusiastically admiring her like an excited fan, calling her amazing, and this makes her blush even more as she shyly asks whether her outfit suits her. He tells her to spin around, which confuses her at first, but she follows his request and twirls to show off her dress, and seeing her like that leaves him speechless to the point where he can only describe her as cute, which she gratefully accepts while blushing. She then reflects that he has always praised her since they were children, yet she struggles to be honest about her feelings and internally criticizes herself for it, becoming emotional. But when he looks at her gently and remarks that she has truly changed, it makes her happy as she admits that she cannot forgive her past self and is glad to have grown. And finally, she reaches out her hand toward him and asks if they should walk together while holding hands. After hearing this, he remarks that it really feels like a date, and she responds with a bright smile, indirectly confirming that it truly is one. And as she says this, he slowly reaches out and takes her hand, while she begins walking ahead of him, reminiscing that they used to walk like this in the past as well, realizing that everything she had always wanted had been right in front of her from the very beginning, because he had always been by her side. And as she looks at him, she apologizes for only realizing it so late. Meanwhile, the MC feels uneasy, thinking that he still cannot recall how he once felt when he loved Hinagi, and as they arrive at the movie theater and head toward their seats, he reflects that if he cannot rediscover those feelings, he will not be able to properly respond to anyone else's emotions, finding it cruel that others gather the courage to confess their feelings while he is expected to return them with equal sincerity. And as he watches Hinagi enjoying the movie, he quietly wonders how he is supposed to respond to her. Later, outside the theater, Hinagi happily comments that the movie was very interesting, which he agrees with, even enthusiastically mentioning that the director paid special attention to the final shot, and she then asks if he still has some time left, prompting him to check his phone and realize that he does indeed have some free time. However, she suddenly assumes that he must have disliked the outing, which surprises him, and she apologizes, admitting that she simply wants to spend a little more time with him. And in response, he sighs before gently taking her hand and telling her to come with him, leaving her curious as she asks where they are going, to which he replies that it is a kind of punishment, surprising her and leading her to excitedly misinterpret his words. Though he quickly becomes confused by her reaction and questions what she is even implying. He then stops at a spot and asks her to look ahead, revealing a cluster of flowers, and as she looks at them, she identifies them as hydrangeas, while he comments that they are beautiful, which she agrees with, though as she begins to ask why he brought her here, he lightly pinches her cheeks, leaving her confused as she asks what he is doing, and he responds by asking whether she is truly seeing things properly. At that moment, she recalls that the language of hydrangeas is often associated with pride, infidelity, and coldness, remarking that it suits her perfectly, which only exhausts him as he dismisses that interpretation, saying that no one even mentioned that, and instead shares a story he once heard about a man burdened by debt who, after finally freeing himself, felt as though his world had opened up and he could truly appreciate the changing seasons. And as she tries to respond, he gently cuts her off and advises her not to limit herself with such narrow ways of thinking. He tells her that if she simply takes a deep breath and looks around, she will start to notice that beautiful things exist everywhere, and that she can never predict when or where she might encounter something truly wonderful, even pointing toward a couple kissing openly on the street as an example, which immediately embarrasses her as she yells at him not to point at such things in public. Meanwhile, he reflects that Hinagi has been watching him closely the entire time and realizes that instead of enjoying the moment, he has been trying to ease her anxiety, sensing that she might end up missing something important if this continues. So he gently tells her that they are in high school now and that she should allow herself to have fun. However, she begins to tremble and admits that she cannot do that, breaking down as she confesses that if she had not said those things before and had simply chased after him and reconciled, then she would not have ended up ruining his life. And as tears fall from her eyes, he calmly reassures her that he does not really mind what happened. When she tries to continue, he stops her and instead tells her that if he ever gets into trouble, she should just come and help him. And upon hearing this, she repeats his name softly and steps closer, promising that she will, gripping his shirt as she cries and declaring that she will definitely do something and support him no matter what, before looking up at him and telling him that if he ever has any problems, he should not hesitate to talk to her about anything. He gently places his hands on her cheeks and wipes away her tears, and as she smiles and thanks him, he looks at her expression and thinks that the meaning behind pink hydrangeas, that of a cheerful woman, suits her far more than any image of sadness ever could. She then turns away briefly before looking back at him with a soft smile and explains that she has already had a wonderful encounter a long time ago when she was still a child, and that no matter what happens, that fact will never change, and he quietly agrees, deciding not to press her to repeat what she meant, while reflecting on the feelings he once let go of and those he has since lost, hoping that one day he might be able to recall them again as he continues to hold her hand. The scene then shifts to the two of them standing by a roasted sweet potato cart, where the MC splits one in half and suggests that since it is before dinner, they should share it. And as she takes a bite, she remarks that it feels strange to be eating roasted sweet potatoes at this time of year, to which he responds that it does not quite match the season or the mood. Yet she smiles and says that it is still delicious anyway as she gently blows on the hot food. Suddenly, the MC panics and apologizes out of nowhere, which confuses and worries her as she asks what is wrong, and he awkwardly reassures her in a completely misguided way that he does not care about something embarrassing, causing her to immediately hit him on the head and deny it, before bursting into laughter and calling him an idiot in an affectionate tone while expressing how much she cares about him. And in that moment, the two of them simply smile and enjoy their time together as they share the sweet potato.